All right, sending positive vibes out to the electromechanical recording device land that everything's actually going to work in this episode. It could be a disaster. Stand by. Hey everybody, welcome back to Rattlecan Guitar Restorations. I am James, and I am here with my at times temperamental and sometimes uncooperative recording devices. And when you're not really sure if the color balance is going to look okay, you throw up a grade tag with chart just to see if you can get things close, because we are in a different location than we normally are. This is the neck for Liam's tiny guitar. And we are going to talk about a couple of things before we're headed into the shop and the bandsaw to cut the headstock design out. This is the meat that you get for this instrument. This is, again, a small scale instrument, and it's a little bit challenging because you get a little less meat than you get on, let's say, some other kit guitar necks. That's because there is a little more real estate, because it's not shrunkulated like this one is. So we still have to be cognizant of a couple of things, and some of the things that we don't want to do are get into some areas that we don't need to be in that could compromise the structural integrity of this, and some design elements that we kind of have to be careful of. So before we get started on this, I'm going to show you a couple of tools that you might want to get ready. Rulers or straight edges of many different kinds. You don't have to have all of these. These are just examples of different kinds of straight edges that you could use. Circle templates. There's actually another one, but it just decided to self-select and dive off the end of my drawing board. Here it is. These will come in handy when we are attempting to figure out some shapes, especially on this style of neck. And we'll be talking and using some gasp geometry terms. You might also find a French curve of some design somewhat handy. Could use the compass. If I'm drawing, I like to use these little drafting dots that you put on the corner so your paper doesn't go flying all over the place. After you use your eraser, then if you use a brush, you're not going to smear lead all over the place. And then a pencil of some species. I like these. These are Zebras. This is an M301 with the 0.5 millimeter lead. That is my preferred mechanical pencil of choice. I also use the F310 with a 0.7 millimeter ball pen, hashtag not sponsored. So one of the things that we do need to do is we kind of have to figure out what we are working with, and you can do that by just simply taking a sheet of white paper and tracing the outline of the headstock that you have to work with. Now, a couple of things you have to consider. If you notice the end of this pencil, the diameter or the outside of this pencil is this big, but the pencil lead is in the middle of that. So when I'm tracing around that, I'm actually making it bigger by, well, half a pencil width. So what we can do is we can start here, we can trace this around. Be careful to keep this straight up and down, and then I will mark the end of the fretboard like so, and then I will make some little circles. Now, if you angle your pencil just right, two things will happen. One, you'll get a hole that's pretty close to the size of your tuner holes. The other thing is, you will more than likely snap off the end of your pencil lead, as I did on the first hole. Now, something else that you can do is you can take this and you can run this right in the corner where the wood meets the paper, which is great for areas where it actually does that. It does get a little squirrely when you get up like in here, because the wood pulls away from this plane. So it's just something you have to keep in mind. So now you can see we have two lines. We have this line, which is the actual outline of the headstock, and then we have this line, what I call like the buffer line. So what we do have to think about, let's talk about a no-go zone or a no-fly zone. And this is, you can do whatever you want to with this headstock, but there is an area that you kind of need to stay away from. I am going to use this straight edge and roughly make a line like this, and then roughly make a line like, oh, I don't know, something like this. So this area in here, we do not want to mess with, because you run the possibility of damaging the structural integrity of your instrument, which means if you get too close to these holes, this wood can crack and then bad things can happen. And we don't want bad things to happen. So we now have this much area that we can kind of work with. And I talked about these circle templates. Actually, let's get some dots down so that our paper quits moving around. If you are, for instance, attending some sort of a drafting program, if you are in one of these STEM track programs, vocational programs in high school, or at a local community college or a four-year college, and you're taking just plain old mechanical drafting, this is something, in fact, a lot of this stuff up here is what you're going to work with. The other thing I'm going to have to tell you is I'm working upside down, which may become problematic here in a little bit, but we're going to try to keep it together. Now, what we are attempting to suggest, because this is one of my own, this is a soapbox moment. We're all big boys and girls, and you can do whatever you want to do. I'm just telling you the way I see the world. This is a headstock shape that is actually used by Fender. It's used on all these 50s and the 60s, these 52 AV, 52 AV Special, the James Burton Standard, and the Nashville Deluxe Telecasters. And this design is copyright of Fender. They came up with it, and they have the rights to tell people who can and who cannot produce for whatever reason their headstock shape. Now, with that said, if it's you in your own shop and you're making your own thing, they're probably not going to say anything. If it is you in your shop and you are selling these and you are advertising them on a website, and this is an exact and identical copy, then there's a pretty good chance they might say something. You want to roll the dice? If you're a small commercial venture, you go right ahead and roll those dice, but you leave me out of it. So what we can do is we can alter some of these shapes so that it is suggestive of this design, but not a copy of this design. We can take some, I don't know, artistic license with it. So using our circles, I'm going to show you kind of what I came up with. So what we have is we have a number of circles here, and those circles either touch another circle or they touch a line, and that touching point right there is called a tangent. And what we can do is we can use a tangent to connect circles or other shapes, but we're just going to use circles because circles are easy. So this circle here on this particular design, what I have found is that is an 1.5" circle. And all I did was of course, before I drew on it, I went over here and I kind of matched up that circle as close as I could to what it looked like. And so that is that circle right there. It's an 1.5". Now on this circle, I did the same thing, but that circle is an 1.125", which is right here. So then I drew this circle. Now this circle is kind of a pain because my templates only go up to 2 inches. Now you could roughly kind of start making your circle bigger and bigger. If you wanted to use these calipers, you could discover what that is. But what I did is I just got one that was kind of close enough there. And then even here, I put my French curve down, and if I go into just the right areas, then that French curve really fits that line pretty well between this mark and this mark. So then what I did is I went through and I marked where lines touch or where lines don't touch anymore, a tangent point. So I marked those, and then so I have the line from here, and then I had to make up this line right here, and that was kind of easy enough to do. We drew this line, we drew this line, we had to make up this line. And that is kind of how you connect curves and circles and straight lines in order to make the design that you want. So we can kind of take this idea here and we can see how well or how not well it applies to our neck here. So if we take this 1.5" circle and we put it here, it matches close. Let's go, see, that's too big. So yeah, we're an 1.5", and let's just mark that out. So then we had this circle, and that was the big one. That one's like 2 inches. And if we lay it here, it's out of the frame and not very helpful. But if I put it up here, we can see that it kind of grazes that tuner, and the line is roughly in line with our tuner holes. So we could go kind of like this. And then down here we had an 1.125" hole that was tangent with our 2-inch circle, like, but not quite tangent with our 1.5" circle. So kind of make that there. And then the fun one, because I don't quite know, that kind of connected up to there, and it kind of connected up to here. I don't know, because see this, let's pull this up again. we have this little hoop here, and our hoop is a little bit bigger. The radius on this is a little bit bigger. This is a little tighter radius than we have here. This part here just kind of comes straight off and then runs into that curve. So in theory, let's see, let's take a straight edge here and roughly say that is the neck wood there. So if we came straight off of that, we're probably back here a little more, and it doesn't help us a whole lot. So you know what, let's just kind of do this as a guesstimate. And then let's go tangent to tangent here. And we could throw a little bit of a curve into that instead of it being just a straight line. So, and that's not too bad. So, again, we're all grown-ups. You can do whatever you want to do. What I would do is I would erase some of these circles so that I can then start to get an idea, a better idea of the shape of that which we have just come up with. And look at me, doing exactly what I told you not to do. So do as I say, don't do as I dare. Do it again. Okay, I'm going to put this in my hand. Golly. So we've got this curve coming out here. This is, I don't know. I don't like this. I'm not sure how we would treat that. That's a pickle. But we won't really know until we lay it out on the guitar. So let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Kind of get rid of that. Okay. So is that kind of a telly line? I think it's kind of a telly line. Yeah. But I think our geometry is off, again, because this French curve that you can't see because, once again, it's out of the range. Here we go. I think we're off dimensionally because this curve comes and goes straight across, whereas our curve comes in a little further and then kind of comes up. And so we're going to have to do kind of that. We'll see. Will either young Liam or Fender get upset with us with this? I don't think so, because, well, for the aforementioned reasons, we're not doing this. We're just doing this for little Liam because he bought a crappy guitar and he deserves a better guitar. We're a little bulbous on here because if you will notice, 1 5/8 hole on this hole right here, which is 1 5/8 here, we're out quite a ways there. Can you see this area right here? There's a straight line down the back, whereas if you look at ours, we are offset. In fact, we used the 1 1/2 hole there, but you'll notice that our line comes up like that. So I think we're deviating enough that we're not gonna, I think it's gonna be okay. So here's what I would do next is I would get an X-Acto knife and I would cut this out. And I'm going to do that. Stand by. All right, I have a moderately sharp X-Acto blade. You could also do this with a pair of scissors, especially if your blade is really dull. This is probably almost as much fun as watching me peel tape off of a guitar neck. And we're kind of like that. And we're kind of like this. And now we can reset for bringing the neck back to the table. All right, neck. Let's see. Does that fit okay? I think that fits okay. So let's take L pencil and just lightly sketch this out. All right, what do we think? I think that comes okay. Give me a second. All right, how's that? You see that a little bit better? Good. All right, so that is what we have come up with. And I think that's okay. Now, I'm pretty sure young Liam is not going to be gravely concerned about the historical or brand accuracy of his headstock. He just wants the stupid thing to play and to not sound horrible like the one he currently has. So I'm going to say this is okay, and we're going to go with this. So now what I'm going to do is I am now going to sketch my cut line, because what I will do is I will put this on the bandsaw and I will cut to this line, and that way when we come back here we can then go to the sander, and then we can ever so gently, slowly, and with much control and precision remove this mahogany from this line to this final line. And then we'll give it a final look. We'll see if that is, even when we cut it to this first shape with the bandsaw, we'll be able to look at it and go, yeah, I like that. Or you'll go, and might want to do something else. So that's how I do this. I'm sure there are other ways that people do things. If you have a different way that you would do this, if you're trying to replicate a headstock shape or be suggestive of a headstock shape for a special project like this, I'd sure love to hear about it. Put it in the comments down beneath the sermon notes. We'll probably release this one, well, I don't know. We may just go ahead and I don't know. I'll probably just cut this part out. So anyways, I'm James. This is Rattlecan Guitar Restorations, working on Liam's tiny guitar, in particular the neck and the headstock shape, trying to get it suggestive and in the flavor of the mini T body shape that it was marketed as. So you guys have a great weekend. Remember, get out there and do something, even if it's just clean stuff up. Yeah, have a good one. Cheers. Can't even see that, can you? Golly. Hey everybody, thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon here at Rattlecan Guitar Restorations. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to click my beautiful face above. Hit the bell to be notified next time we drop a video. Here's a video that the Hive Mind has picked out especially for you. And remember, if I can do it, you can do it. You guys have a great weekend. Shut up, cat. Cheers.